So we're with Leighton. First ever podcast, and if you can hide your nerves well enough, congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers.
I still get nervous meeting people, eh?
Yeah.
I worked it out, like I spoke to, over a 13-year period, about 100,000 people.
Mm.
And I still don't necessarily feel comfortable. But today, I feel somewhat comfortable.
That's good. Experience comes over time, right? So you need to, you learn on the job, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, and I think fear, because that was my number one fear, talking to people. So I try to create a framework for it. So fundamentally, things that are novel are fearful because you don't understand what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's called exposure therapy. If you can incrementally do 1,000 podcasts, you're probably going to get less nervous over time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. My fear is public speaking. So,
oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I guess one of the purposes of coming on today is to combat that a little bit as well.
Cool. All right, anyone listening, you want to bail them up and get them to speak. Well, what is it about, and just FYI, people listening, he's a marketing expert around social media and how to convert that. Well, I guess you could, before I ask you about your fear of public speaking, how would you encapsulate what you do?
I guess it's lead generation and performance marketing through digital tools. So we don't necessarily produce content, websites, or that kind of thing, but we target audiences for your particular product or service to get more leads or get more awareness or get more whatever your objective is, and optimize through data and platforms.
Like, I said that a few times.
Yeah, actually, yeah, not so much, but it really does depend on what the person's trying to optimize for. So some people are purely trying to sell more things. Some people are trying to introduce more relationships. Some people are just getting awareness or building customer presence, building a presence for their customers. Sorry. So it really does depend on, and we've got all sorts on the book. So.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go on depth on that at some point. I think people are interested in who you are, mate.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
New Zealand.
New Zealand? No,
Auckland.
Auckland.
Yeah.
Jaffa.
Yeah. Through and through.
Nice.
Yeah. Although my mum's from Christchurch, so I can claim a little bit of mainland territory for that as well.
Fair. Well, I'm Palmy boy, so I escaped. So you probably one step above.
Yeah.
So you're born in Auckland. Were you a confident young man? When did the public fear begin?
Absolutely not confident. I remember in primary school, we had to dress up in cardboard boxes, it was a green, dress up in junk kind of, and I remember I was too scared to move, so I sat down and everyone moved around me. So that was probably one of my first times where I was just too scared to even move because people were watching.
Interesting. I met this guy at a hostel, and he was scared of performing something if it wasn't perfect, and he's like an actor. And he talked of an experience where his name was called out in assembly, but he wasn't sure if it was about him. Yeah. So he got up and then sat back down, and everyone looked at him, and he made it to mean this massive thing about him. So that's why he always gets his ducks in a row before he does it. It's quite interesting. Similar story.
Yeah, preparation is important. But my parents took time off work to come and see me and stuff. And looking back, it's pretty embarrassing. But I've sort of taken steps to get over that as well. So I was like, what's one thing that I could do that's really going to push me out there? So I did promotional work through uni. So working at Red Bull type stuff. So so handing out beers at concerts and chips at different locations and doing supermarket testing and stuff. So to talk to as many people in public as possible. And then after end of uni, I got into bodybuilding and started getting on stage and stuff. So that was I just only did that for a couple of years, but it was to push myself into. I was like, if I can stand on stage, without any gear on, it's
How do you pick the undies? You go, is there a better color for bodybuilder?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. It didn't work for me. But
you get the 6-pack?
It got a 6-pack.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was training at some points twice a day, 6 days a week kind of thing. So
natural.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you? So you're quite. Would you say you're knowledgeable around the fitness space?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of studies that kind of prove and disprove different things. Like I know there at one point it was like red meat causes cancer, but is it because most people that eat red meat have wine, or do they cook it on a barbie or whatever? So I think it's, but I think the basics are just monitoring like inputs and outputs, right? So exercising and then eating whole foods is quite good. So less refined sugar, less processed. I still eat processed and stuff now, but back in the day, it was just very plain, like, meat, veggies, and carbs, potatoes, kumaras, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Bodybuilder, eh?
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah. Because I was like, at school, I was like 50 something kilos, maybe 60 kilos. And then I got up to, like 90 something. So.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't fill out in the bodybuilder spot.
No.
Got fat. But yeah, I was 5'6", under 50 kilos. I was in the under 50 kilo rugby team.
Yeah.
There was a thing.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
said, if you keep putting me in there, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
gave up rugby because everyone was double my weight.
Yeah. I couldn't catch a ball, so I failed in the rugby team.
What, did you play any sport?
I played tennis, but I was pretty uncoordinated. So, at school, I actually did like a bit of choir and stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like it was high pitched. You
Yeah, that was at the start of high school.
Can you sing still?
No,
Oh,
not
I'll put
happening.
you through that.
No, not happening.
Surely. What's your favorite song to sing in the shower?
I don't have one, mate. I don't have one. I listen to the radio in the shower sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Think you're electrocuted?
No.
I'm just
No.
fucking with you a little bit. Okay, so bodybuilder, you having whole foods.
Yeah. Whole
And then-
foods, exercising.
So what did you study at uni?
I studied marketing and information management. So I originally went to school and I was thinking I enjoyed diving, and everyone like scuba diving, and everyone says, do what you love, you won't work a day in your life, that kind of thing. So I was like, oh cool, well, I'll be like marine biologist, and then I can go scuba diving every day. And so I was like, perfect. I was into science and stuff. Then we did this like job open day, and this like professor comes in, like balding, like grey beard, like I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, what we do is we take a meter of sand and we look at it for organisms. And I was like, oh, probably don't have the patience for that. So then I was like, well, what's the next obvious choice? And I was like, well, the world's going more towards, an IT space, more towards like data management and internet-based and that kind of thing. And marketing or sales seems quite important as well. So I did sales, and I did like a marketing and information management degree.
Did you learn anything about marketing there?
Yeah, you learn a lot. Well, what I took from there is psychology, like human psychology, like how people think, the 4 Ps in marketing, price, promotion, product placement. And that still applies to today, even in digital, even, above the line and billboards and stuff. Having the right promotion and placement and, an offer is important.
Okay. Well, there's a theory that every person that's listening to my podcast probably gets tired of me saying. But I reckon to find your purpose, you help a version of yourself in the world.
Yep.
So like whether it was something you struggle with emotionally or you witnessed in others, there's a compelling desire to help that. And when you do, you feel engaged, enlightened, like in the moment. Do you have that? Like, is there something that you really enjoy helping people with?
I guess I probably, in terms of sport and stuff, I was an underdog, right? Like I was pretty bad with, I couldn't really catch a ball. Like I was pretty bad at coordination. And so I think, I guess philosophically, helping people that are a bit of an underdog, that have a big ambition, but maybe not the right in terms of marketing or business, like maybe, aren't quite where they want to be. It's like, how can we, work together to get to where you want to achieve, like to get to what you want to achieve. Because I think if you give to people, then in the long run, it comes back, whether that be through, they generate more sales or whether they can provide referrals or even just provide, good feedback on how you can improve. So I think it's, if you can help people succeed and help them achieve things, I think that's useful.
Yeah, I mean, good things happen. Like if you give without expectation. My business associate with the finance company, he says focused activity equals results.
Yeah.
So it's good to give as just in general, you feel amazing. From a business standpoint, I think you should be a bit more conscious of how you're giving. So you're still giving without expectation. It's just if you go give to people that have nothing to do with your business over and over and never have time to do anything with your business, that make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I do agree with that.
Yeah, and that's one thing, that's one thing I've kind of learned along the way, right? I was always sort of a people pleaser in the past. And so I think losing that a little bit, saying no a little bit more, and having focus, especially when you're starting out, is so important. And so that's a couple of things I've learned along the way as well.
I heard from Mike Tyson, I like this quote, is that a person that's friends with everyone is an enemy to themselves. It's interesting.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a great point, yeah.
I got people please too. Less so now. I'm a bit more less agreeable.
Yeah, and I think it's I think you're right. By giving everyone else your time, you're taking time away from yourself, and therefore you're not learning or you're not developing your skills where you could help other people. So I think it's definitely a balance.
Well, I mean, what I mean by that statement is that, if you're always being nice to other people and not communicating boundaries, because sometimes kindness isn't nice. It's like someone's disrespecting you consistently, turning up late and not doing what they said they would. You're contributing to an unhealthy habit for the rest of your life. I'm saying it's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're always allowing people to take advantage of you and you're always helping them without expectation, then you're going to have an internal dialogue that's not too healthy.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, we'll move on to something else. So, okay, you get your degree and then you get a job immediately because degrees are all you need to get jobs.
Yeah, well, I didn't follow down the path of doing an OE or something. I was like, well, you're best to get, money, and then you can kind of work out your traveling or whatever after that. But from there, I went into Fairfax Media. So went in, so into that back when that was a thing. So they owned Stuff at the time. They bought it off Trade Me.
Wow. I didn't know Trade Me owned them. Wow.
Yeah. I think it was Trade Me. Yeah.
Jesus.
No, Stuff owned Trade Me.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Delete that out.
Yeah. Nah, own it, mate. We can delete whatever you want, but I reckon own it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I worked for Fairfax, and I started off in magazines. So working as an account manager for advertising. I then went onto the Sundays, so Sunday Star Times, Sunday News.
Wait, how do you sell? Because maybe not then, but I think it's a big waste of money, and personally. But
magazines?
Yeah, putting advertising. What would you say, or is there value?
No, there is value. I think especially in glossy magazines. So they sit, the benefit of print media or magazines especially is it sits on a table. So multiple people can read it, and also it's specialized, right? So one of the magazines that I worked with was New Zealand Fishing. I think it was New Zealand Fishing, and so if you were selling lures or rods or something, then the people reading it are into fishing, and so you've got a really direct audience.
What happened? Did you see the follow-up? Because you're saying something which could very well be true.
Yeah.
Did you have I signed this client up and they're like, oh my God, I had 10 people come in because of the clipping from the magazine. Do you have a way to track that?
No, but I think I never sold it. I was just account management. So it was just if anyone, I was just an order taker essentially. I didn't actually sell it. So, making sure that it went in the magazines properly, it went on the right pages and stuff. It was a pretty junior role, but it's, I think people wouldn't keep advertising if they didn't think it worked. And also it's probably a little bit of an ego thing as well, right? It's a bit like billboards, right? If you're driving past a billboard, sometimes it's, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But they say, I think it was Saatchi's or something. There's an old saying where like, if you want to improve the boss, put your advertising on the billboard outside their office.
Improve the boss. I don't understand. What do you mean? So you put a billboard outside a place, or
impress the boss.
Impress the boss.
Yeah, sorry, did I say improve?
Yeah.
Sorry, impress. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So there is an ego component. Like, I was looking at the history of advertising recently, I don't know why. And because I was trying to convey how the trends of underpriced attention, and I found that it was on the other side of two things, which is novelty and instant gratification.
Yeah.
So, like, when billboards first came out, they weren't too good, but then they suddenly became very good because of the way highways were structured. So there was a lot more volume of people going past the billboard, and
Right.
very little competition. When radios came out, I think you were getting, like, in the UK, you're getting like £1 to £7 or whatever it was called back then. So you spend $1, you get $7 back, because there's very little competition, but there's a large audience. And that's why, I went to TikTok first. Like, I don't know of any advisor did it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because of that, because it's underpriced attention. So that's why I think people do spend money on advertising, even though it doesn't work, because they're comfortable. It's not novel.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I think things are shifting a long way now. Things have shifted a long way now. Like, people are tracking, every dollar. They're tracking, engagement. They're tracking, where, how leads are flowing through their funnel and the quality of them and things. So I think things have shifted a little bit. But often you could do print media as a marketing mix. So you could, you might have, say you're into fishing, you see a lure company or something, then you might search that on Google, and hopefully, that company appears, in the top 3 or 4 on there. And so it kind of all works as a bit of an ecosystem. There's not many advertising methods that just kind of go straight from, that just cold get people straight into a lead or a sale.
Well, I'm not against TV, radio, print, as long as that there's not enough competition, then it's worthwhile to me. So, that's like, I had an $80 a month marketing budget when I met you a while back. We could talk about that. Because I didn't know anything about advertising or content marketing. So you were referred by the guy that used to host our website. Incredible, man, Paul.
Yeah.
Stockton, check it out, .co.nz. Just a legend. And I didn't know what to do, how to get there. But now I'm just sort of recognizing that in order to capitalize on the most effective underpriced attention, you got to be a little bit judged by everyone else.
I think so, yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. It's like, because it's such a foreign concept to others, they're too afraid to compete. So there's very little competition. So the price is low.
Yeah, correct. And I think, like, understanding your niche and understanding your avatars or the people that you're targeting is extremely important as well.
Yeah.
You can't just target New Zealand wide for someone that's interested in X or Y. It's how can you adjust your message and your targeting and everything as part of the marketing to get that one person. And I also saw something recently around being a big fish in a small pond versus a small fish in a big pond. Like, a lot of people try and run before they walk. They'll expand to other countries or whatever before they've established a market in their home country or in New Zealand. But there's a lot of advantages, I think, to being a big fish in terms of attention and awareness and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a good book worth just skimming, because then you get the points. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. It's by a guy that works with Charlie Munger.
Yeah.
You know the book?
No, I don't. No, but I know Charlie.
Yeah, you know Charlie.
No, of Charlie, yeah.
Yeah, so Charlie walked into this guy's office and said, "Are you doing anything illegal? Because I've never seen that with sales before." And that was when he had his magazine company, I think it was. So he had a list. Charlie Munger had like a list of 2,000 advertisers.
Yeah.
And the guy, I can't remember his name, he was tasked with trying to close them. And he did an analysis of them, and he found that only 2% of them account for 90% of the ad spend.
Yeah.
So instead of going wide, he just went for those 20.
Yeah.
Nothing happened for 5 months because everyone wants a piece of them. But then he doubled his sales year on year. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. I think like adjusting your campaigns or adjusting your marketing strategy is important as well, right? There is some benefits to going wide, but like I said, I think going deep is probably where you can better establish, a niche or results. Do you read a lot? Do you read a lot of books?
I was. Now I don't. I just like podcasts and asking.
Yeah.
So I just call you up, ask. Yeah, tell me how to do Facebook ads.
Yeah, that's a more direct way, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I knew about that book, I never read it. I just read the summary of it and asked people what they took from it, and then just applied it. I don't want to sit and read a book. Like, it's dead time.
Yeah, it's interesting. They say like a lot of people that are successful have read a lot of books. But then we spoke about Alex Hormozy recently, and he's big on reading one or two books a lot and getting a lot of value from one or two books rather than kind of understanding a huge range of books.
Well, some people read books out of ego instead. The whole benefit of a business book or nonfiction is, how do I consume this information and implement in my business today? Yeah.
Action, right?
Yeah, well, it's all bullshit. Everyone's like, I've got this amazing idea. I hear it every other day. I've got this amazing idea. It's going to revolutionize. Okay, do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's why it's important we spoke earlier about sharing information. And I think that's what's important. Like, you need to share information, because the people that do take action on that information, they either improve your competition, which again improves you, or else they don't action it. In that case, it's fine as well. So.
Well, that's why, I'm glad this is your first podcast, like I was saying. I'm glad you're venturing out into the world of content, because it's so valuable to be known as the person that gave it away. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's like, oh, got this intellectual property. No, you don't. Like, just Google. It's already there. But if you produce enough content at scale where people see value and they know you give it all away, that is more powerful than protecting that and IPing it.
Exactly. And we can't serve everyone that needs our help, right? Like, it's, so it's, and, people can't serve unless maybe if you're Coca-Cola or something, but it's like, it's, you need, it's a bit selfish to kind of, to do that. So.
Well, I looked, Coca-Cola was in that advertising history.
Yeah.
And what they did was quite cool, was they relatively were quite pioneering with their coupon and their offer and their subsidiary offers. So they wouldn't just offer Coke, they would provide certain things that would help promote Coke, but they weren't actually part of the offering of the Coke itself, and put it in stores.
Yeah.
And then also provide free drinks, which accounted for 10% of their profit. So they're actually giving it away for free because they were so confident that people would love the drink.
Yeah.
Which is, like I was talking about, the underpriced attentions on the other side of instant gratification. So that was not getting sales now, but it made benefit over the long run.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think a lot of people, but nowadays especially, believe they're almost the center of the world, because like your notifications come to your pocket. If you want anything, you look on your phone. There's people that get disappointed if an Uber doesn't come in 1 minute, right? So, I think it's like, that plays into the whole strategy, I think.
Well, it's like I can't remember where I heard it from, but like there's a doctor that was talking to people that if they didn't change their habits, they were going to die. And this, like, a time frame, and only 10% change their habits. And I think that's an important thing to recognize about humans and in business, is that the uncomfortable things that other people don't want to do is where the greatest opportunities are.
Yeah.
That's why I was talking about the underpriced attention component.
Yeah, I think so. And it's the old, biting the bullet and just doing it. Like, sometimes, and I think that's probably an important lesson as well, right? Is just showing up or just being present and just, taking that first step. Because once you sort of, even if you don't decide, even if you just take the step as you're deciding, then it's beneficial in the long run, right? Because you at least know if it does or doesn't work. But by thinking about it or having the idea or whatever, you're just wasting time.
Well, speaking of that, without going into details, there was a moment in time where you were an employee for the majority of your life, and then you had to make a call. So I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that experience around COVID, and suddenly you're like, I got to start a business now. Fuck.
Yeah, so I left a previous job like at the start of COVID. And I was like, shoot, like no one's hiring at the moment. This is before, the employee scheme came in from the government. And so I obviously had like ongoing costs and stuff. So I shifted home, and then that's where Ladder & Co. came out of. So, it was, I was sitting at the dining room table thinking, what am I going to do next? I'd come from a digital marketing background. And so I was like, well, maybe if I could contract a couple of clients to start with, then we could get, then that would carry me through to another job of being employed. In the 2 or 3 months after COVID, right? Because we didn't know it'd be that long. But it starts probably slightly further back. I worked in banking at ANZ Bank, and in marketing, where it was around insurance products and KiwiSaver. So understanding how sending emails and sending marketing information based on people's spending habits. So how they spend their credit cards or bank. We'd target different information to those people. So if you bought a house, you would get house insurance. If you're buying, it was a little more complicated than that. But if you are buying baby clothes or bassinets and things, then you would get information about insurance for a family or income protection. And so that was kind of where like my understanding of like data and I guess customer service from a data perspective happened. But then I wanted to work more closely. I got over the corporate stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, well, how can I work with with businesses? Because I like to help people. And so
no underdogs in corporate.
No.
Honestmen.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I applied to be like a business lending manager, like business lending person. Because then I could at least help people, through funding, help scale their businesses. But that never eventuated. So I got into digital marketing into an agency at digital marketing because that way I could help scale their businesses through marketing, which was something I was interested in, and through data.
Through data.
Through data, yeah, because I think like one of the things that I don't think people do enough, there's a lot of data in the world, right? There's a lot of information coming in, but how you use that information and how you select that information is really important, and knowing what to use as well. So that's one thing that we're focused on at Ladder & Co. is using data to help make decisions and use data-led decisions, as well as qualitative information like, who your customers are, where you think your market's heading and that kind of thing.
So data, obviously I'm very much just wing it kind of guy. So I like to surround myself with data-driven people.
Yeah.
What do you mean data? Like, so what are we pulling out of the sky? We've got, 10,000 clients and they have these certain behaviors, or is marketing data you should be knowledgeable on, or what data do you froth over?
At the moment, I think it's a little bit like that scenario with Charlie Munger, where it's like, what's the 2% that's going to give you the 10% edge or 20% edge or whatever the edge is? Because a lot of businesses we deal with are small and medium, and they don't have the budgets of Coca-Cola, of these big companies, and so you have to go narrow and deep, maybe across a couple of SKUs or a couple of products. So what we look at is obviously like click-through rates and that kind of thing, but also looking at multi-attribution conversions.
You're losing me.
Which is like multi-attribution is like if someone discovers your business via an organic search or via display ad, whatever, or billboard or whatever, and then they search online, and I guess like their path to purchase and what digital touch points are touching them on their way through to a purchase. Because we've got clients that might take up to 13 or 14 website visits before they actually pull the trigger on something, whereas others will buy straight away. And so how do you cater for the end purchase as your goal? And once you've kind of got market saturation for the people that are buying, straight away, how then do you develop, I guess, lead funnels, but attribution conversions to get someone, or to help someone along their purchase journey?
So okay,
or eliminate them, right? If they're checking a lot and not purchasing, then how do you stop? How do you get a net negative? How do you get a net negative to get those people out of the funnel so you can get better people in for your business? Yeah.
Well, I actually enjoy scaring people off.
Yeah, it's important. I think as we spoke about, like, it's important to say no to people that aren't going to fit your demographic or your journey.
Yeah, well, there's an important difference between fans and followers. So I think people naturally will want to be people pleasy, put their best foot forward, be all shiny. Not a personal attack. I do that. But in actual fact, it's better to have people hate you and love you than to have everyone that likes you. Especially from a branding component, because you're not trying to service every market. Like, if I had 21 clients for this marketing company, that's a lucrative business with the price point that I'm charging.
Yeah, it's an interesting discovery into human psychology as well. Like, I don't think there's many people on the planet that don't know Andrew Tate, right?
Yeah,
but it's like it's not actually whether you like him or dislike him. It's the attention it's attention that sells things, right? Whether it be negative or positive, most people know, people that have done it well, like Kardashians, Andrew Tate, and then they've leveraged off that.
Yeah, I think I find authenticity in relationships in life and in business and in marketing is the most rewarding and most challenging.
100%, yeah.
So there's going to be consequences if you speak your mind online, which I have, and I'm waiting to be cancelled. That really meaningful connections that make a positive difference to people's lives is there. And people, I'm fortunate to have people in my life that are very loving and supportive, and I don't have to put on the show. Because cognitive dissonance is a real thing. People wear a mask and then they don't actually present how they truly feel, and that just eats away at them. It was like that Mike Tyson quote I was saying, friend to everyone's an enemy to themselves.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get nitty gritty, because I don't get a marketing guy too often. And I love marketing.
Yeah.
So there's attribution. So there's a certain number of journeys a person needs to go on before they feel comfortable make a decision.
Depending on the purchase cycle and the purchase cycle, so like, if you're selling a house versus a pen, for example, there's more consideration for a larger purchase than a smaller. Or if it's maybe if it's like a subscription or something that's an ongoing purchase, or the start of a purchase, if you're buying the first widget that connects to another widget or another widget, like, do you want to continue down that path or not? So it really does depend on your or maybe even competitors. Like, if you're one of a few options that people are considering, they might come back to your site more often than if you're the only player in the market.
I look at it like decision energy.
Yeah.
So how much energy does it require, or trust or belief in what you're selling, for that person to make a decision? So as you say, if it's a low ticket item, there's very little decision to be made. Maybe there's a lot of competition, so you're using up a lot of energy to decide which one's the right one. So what is a journey to take people on that's like, you can pick a specific thing, but like, what's a start to finish? Like, if you want to do service, you could do me.
Yeah.
But just anyone, whatever you want.
Yeah. So the service being financial planning or podcasting?
Yeah, let's do professional services. So let's say you're a commercial lawyer.
Yeah.
And you want to.
So I think like there's a few ways that, so there's awareness, consideration, lead gen, and sale, or I guess point of sale. So in terms of awareness, like it could be through like offline, so like word of mouth, billboard, they saw your signage out the front of your building or whatever. But then there's consideration, right? So then people will often, like that's the point where most people go to Google. I think it's like 80-something% of searches start with Google. And a lot of people tell Google more than what they tell their partners. So if they've got like an issue or something, they'll like search it before they talk to people. And so that's where like you need to be part of the consideration set. So whether that be, that's why people say the front page of Google or the the top ads of Google or whatever, depending on your strategy. So then it's like, so that's and often it can be organic as well. So it doesn't have to be. So that's the consideration set, like the kind of the browser level. And then there's the lead gen. That's the form fills. Sometimes people do download a book, have a free trial, some way to kind of get your details.
Yeah.
And then there's a sale, which can be offline, like they'll call you back, email you back, and start that kind of sale process. Or else it can be an online conversion if it's e-commerce.
So is that predominantly where you help, is that you've got the awareness, consideration, then lead gen, then you just leave it up to them after that, or what?
So there's different. So some people will either get distracted at any one of those points. So they might come to your site, then the kid starts crying, or lunch finishes, or the bus comes, or whatever. So then it's like, how do you loop? Like, what's the best way you can loop back on that? And then also it's like, there's also like a post-sales element, right, as well, right? So it's like, I've forgotten what the terminology is, but it's when you feel, like regret for buying something.
Oh, yeah, buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse, that's it, yeah. So like, and then like, how does buyer's remorse, come into that? Or potentially that's usually when it can also be when that's the peak of your journey. So that's when you're most excited, right? Is when you've bought it, and it's either just about to happen or about to, in the case of e-commerce, about to arrive or whatever. So how can you then leverage that to get a review and build on social proof, or get a referral, or get another sale through like through a discount code or something as well. So it's understanding, I think marketing is like understanding psychology and people's like thought process, and then applying that to digital touch points in our case.
It's interesting because, I've done commissionary selling and management for most of my life.
Yeah.
And so I like to think I can understand people pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the infrastructure to deliver on my understanding of people.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So what in terms of infrastructure?
Yeah.
So you're obviously tracking some level of behavior.
Yeah.
And then when that behavior occurs, then you're presenting something that might solve that behavior, contribute to that behavior, whatever. So what are businesses, might have heard of Pixels, might have heard this and that. What are those things that you are doing to help enable you to execute on the psychology?
Yeah, so usually that'll be through, so for Google, for example, you'll log in, right? So you've got an email address attached to that. So then they can track your IP address, or like your computer, and also your login detail, like your email for logging in. So they know that this person is taking this journey online. So they can see if you came to the website, they can see, when I say they, the Google, we, I guess, if we've got a pixel on there or a tracking process on there, can see, what actions people are taking, right? There's also, so pixels are is for Meta, which used to be called Facebook. So that's for Instagram. And that's primarily for tracking purchases and actions taken on a site through advertising or through social media posts, Facebook and Instagram posts. So, and you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So like the first thing is understanding what actions people are taking. And then once you've got some of that data, you can say, okay, what's driving the highest conversions, or what's taking the shortest period to convert. And then you can work backwards and say, how do we optimize for that?
Yeah, I don't think people realize how remarkable what all this is. That's why I struggle with print and that, because
Yeah.
you only need to track, retarget based on behavior.
Yeah, we also have like call tracking as well, so we can see call tracking. Yeah. So we've got a roofing client, and we can track, because he wasn't getting many emails, and so it's hard to track online offline conversions. So someone that comes to the site and then calls, because we can see if they've clicked on the phone call, and then, if they've clicked on it, but we don't know if they've actually fulfilled that phone call, what the content was, if they needed, a couple of nails in the roof, or if they needed a whole new roof. So with that, we can record the content if the client wants, and that comes up with a pre-recorded message. Hey, this message is recorded. We record it for what's it called, like for training purposes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you can record the number of offline conversions, being calls, and also the content, and then you can optimize for what was asked for on the call. So you can go through, say, these 5 out of 10 calls were good. These 3 out of those 5 were for new roofs. What did they click on to ask for a new roof? Let's optimize for that in these areas or these times or whatever.
Yeah. Wow. So what are you using to know what the call is? It like
it swaps the phone number. So if you call from say, for example, Google Ads versus Facebook versus offline, it has a different phone number that swaps out on the website.
Oh, yeah.
And then so you know where it came from based on that phone number. And then
so the website will change then when it recognizes a person.
The phone number will swap out. Yeah.
So what tool are you using to deliver on that?
It's called Wildjar. Wildjar, yeah.
Huh. Because I've seen that with like Opus Partners, which was I didn't necessarily agree with their business model, but their marketing was remarkable.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone. Like, it's for some. I mean, there is a cost, obviously a cost associated with that level of tracking, because you're buying a phone number. There's like tracking software. There's data to record that call and things. But you can also, you can run it on and off to kind of test, after you've made a change, how it's going and things as well. So and to some people it's important, to others it's not. They can get a measure from emails, from form submissions, from anecdotal phone calls. They can ask people, where did you come from? So you don't have to do that, but when you've got like a multiple sales, it can also be used for training, right? So if you're not sure what your salespeople are saying on the phone calls, or you're working out ways to help with your conversion, then it can be used for that as well.
Does it like bring it all together in the sense that like it'll track key metrics? Like it'll be like, this person said this word this many times. And
no, not to that level of detail.
That would be,
but
okay.
Yeah, that would be good. But that's probably more getting into like sales training and stuff, which we don't do. I'm not sure if people can do that from a sales training perspective, but it's I think like, because although we specialize in marketing's such a broad subject that and also it relies on a lot of things, right? It relies on you answering the phone. It relies on a good message. It relies on, a customer going into a CRM and then, being followed up on so the lead doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
Your post-sales, if you're e-commerce, post-sales service, so it's just a segment of I guess a customer journey.
Well, I might have a dumb business model or a good business model. Probably dumb knowing me, but
yeah, go on.
I just kind of want to get all of it done for them, so all they have to do is sign up 4 hours a month.
Yeah.
Because essentially the model is, and anyone can steal it if they want, is, you tell me who you want to meet. I put them on a podcast in a podcast studio with you. We handle all the creative, so you're getting brand. And then what I want to do is build a website for the actual podcast itself that leads to conversions that take them out on an email journey. And then also have on my own ads that are trying to attract more prospects, whether on the podcast or to be clients. And then with my sales training, I can teach people on how to sell better if they want to. But then there's a reason why people go specialists, Because all I really know how to do at the moment is post an ungodly amount of content in the right place so a lot of people watch it.
That's the hard part though, right? Like posting, I think a lot of people struggle with creating content, getting themselves out there. I mean, a little bit like me, right? Getting themselves out there. But I think the content and probably the branding is a long term. That's where your long term success comes from, because you run out of people that, well, you can run out of people that immediately purchase something. But I think like people, I think it's really hard to do everything well, which is why we don't do content. We don't do a lot of things. We don't do blog writing and stuff, because there becomes a lot of moving parts, which is more risk for things to screw up.
Right.
Yeah, but it does depend. I mean, some people do everything as well, so it does depend on kind of how you're wired and how you structure it. And I guess you could go deep in terms of maybe a few clients, like not that many clients, but do a broad range of things for them, potentially.
Yeah, well, essentially the plan is to charge them $7,000 a month, which is a high price point for people. And then if I don't deliver on the prospecting, only pay for the ones that show up. And then if you're not happy with it by the end of the year, we'll refund everything.
Yeah.
Which is part of Alex Mosey's guarantees component of making an irresistible offer.
Yeah.
But essentially, I'm not stretching myself because all I'm doing is people and strategy.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what I do well, is helping other people discover or support them be better. So, for example, a partner was Stan Henry. His whole team's got this amazing creative component. I don't touch it. You do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that makes sense. And
could fail, though. I haven't done ads yet, so I'm going to have to see.
Yeah, but I think like
guidance.
If you've got skin in the game, then it's, if you know that if you don't achieve it, then you have to refund everything, and that's gonna be painful. Yeah, that's gonna be painful for your personal life. I think then you can achieve. Yeah, it's a good way to make sure you're not lazy.
Well, I recommended a book. I think anyone should read. I only read it like yesterday. It's really short.
Yeah.
So, $100 million offers by Alex Mosey, but he talks about what value is, and value is time, likelihood of achievement, and outcome.
Yeah.
So what outcome are you helping them achieve? How likely is it that they'll achieve it? And then how much time does it take to invest?
Yeah.
So in terms of constructing an irresistible offer, before I was getting people to do quite a lot, which in itself isn't valuable. So I thought, how can I create something that where it takes 4 hours of their time, so they interview 4 people a month, and then you can make 60 pieces of content. Then that top performing content, because I find there's been a shift in social media. I don't know the ad landscape, so I'm just quoting smarter people.
Yeah.
If you already know a creative's going to perform well because you've organically made it perform well, and then you repurpose that in some way to make a call to action, provided I had the smart infrastructure that you have, that could work well. And it's also not brand fatigue because it's a value giving piece of content.
I think so. Yeah, and I think the goal is not to extract in this case, funds or money, or it's not to extract people. It's to put your branding out there, and then someone will comment on that, refer a friend, like whatever. It's about, like you say, it's about adding value, and then I believe it'll come back to you as well.
Yeah, well, so the goal is, and I'm just talking about myself a lot now.
Yes, that's good.
Because hopefully people can just steal the idea. So the goal is to target high ticket professional services. So the lifetime value of their client might be $60,000.
Yeah.
So if all the marketing fails, and I already know how to put them in front of 48 people a year, so for a month.
Yeah.
And they close 2 of them.
Yeah.
Then it's profitable.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you do the marketing. My ads will suck. I've never done it.
Yeah, I think that what I've learned is to undercook your expectations. So like, previously, in other roles, it's kind of been, what's the best case scenario and talk about that.
Yeah.
Whereas now, we talk about what's the worst case scenario, and is that palatable? Like, can you can you live with that? Because obviously you can grow from a base, but you might get lucky in your first month or 2 months or whatever your kind of grace period is, but the odds are that you might not.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, so what's your base? What's your minimum returns? Minimum reasonable returns.
Yeah.
And then how does that look as part of your strategy? Because you can always build from that, right? But I think, and then that also adds value, and it's low risk for them, low risk for you. I mean, I know yours is probably a little bit more high risk with like a $7,000 a month or whatever. But some people that is sort of low risk, right? Some people that's their monthly income. Some people it's nothing to them. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. So like in finance, we under-promise and over-deliver. So I actively try and scare people off investing because, there's periods of times where it can go down by 30, 40% for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you're not... Yeah, this year. Well, today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly how it's...
Yeah.
And then doing a conservative return, not, like you get after-tax fees and inflation, you're getting about 2% for a balanced fund, 3% for a growth, 4% for an aggressive.
Oh.
The bank, you get about -1 to 1.
Yeah. Again.
Because of inflation, because, like you're getting this return, but the cost of living is increasing more.
Yeah, 100%.
So I believe in the under-promising and over-delivering. And because it's such a foreign business model, there is a lot of speculation there. Like, I'm confident that if the person believes in what they sell and they're willing to learn, I could train them to sell to 2 people out of 48.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think it's probably going back to first principles, right? It's like if you're getting in front of X amount of people, then even if you maybe had 1% of those became leads, then if, I don't know, 10% of those people or however you think it would be structured, become, purchase, then what does that look like? And maybe work out like a from a marketing perspective, like a worst, like a medium, like an average and a best situation.
Yeah.
Because I think there was some research somewhere where like if you said that you were going to email someone by a certain time, if you emailed them an hour later than that, then like your perception dropped like 50% or something, and by the next day it was like close to like 10%, and that's an email, right? That's a relatively like low risk form of communication. So I think even if you like obviously you want to have some confidence in your product or service, but like I think like undercooking it is like probably one lesson that I've learned.
Yeah, well, that would be smart. Like I made that first client, so I called up first and only client.
Yeah, nice.
I called them up and asked them for advice because I was going to sell to management consultants. Changed my mind since, but then they signed up, and I was going to deliver 4 podcast guests a week, do all the editing myself for the video editing, which was 2 videos a day, then plus the long form do that editing. And it just wasn't achievable. And then also I was going to run out of money in 5 months because I got a personal loan to start the business.
Yeah.
So I worked every day, 12-hour days to deliver on it. I was like, shit, I actually can't. What am I going to do? So I had that uncomfortable conversation and said, hey, look, if you get any new clients, I won't take any of the revenue. Like I've made a mistake. I said I'd do it and I wouldn't, and I couldn't. This is why. And this is what I can deliver on if you want to do it. And then they offered to pay recurring revenue.
Awesome.
And then change to the new model.
Yeah, I think like when you're starting off as well, like people pivoting was like a massive thing back, like last year or the year before or whatever. But I think like constant adjustment of, obviously opportunities come your way. And, we spoke about saying no to, saying no to things and kind of having like a strategy. But I think like having like a growth mindset or an open mindset is extremely important when you're starting, because if you always do what you've always done, you get what you've always got, So I think like, trying new things, and sometimes like you have to put yourself in like a, almost like, okay, so you have to put yourself in a position where it's like, figuratively do or die.
Yeah.
For me anyway, like to force yourself to achieve something. So I think that's important as well.
Well, I feel like I should have got a lot more value out of you because there was some really unique insights. I'm also busting to go to the bathroom. And,
Yeah.
we've done 57 minutes.
Oh, really? Shit,
Yeah.
time's flying.
Yeah, so you might have to message some people. So just to wrap it up now, as you get your flood of messages with your new agency.
Yeah.
Who should find you and why should they find you? Where
I
do they find
I think anyone that's had a bad experience in digital, who doesn't know kind of what they're getting, who would just want a second opinion, I'm more than happy to chat to them and help them out, like point them in the right direction or have a look at, or any questions. Just, I guess, if someone needs some assistance in the digital kind of sphere, or advertising sphere, more than happy to have a chat and help them out.
Good man. And how do they find you to get that help out?
www.ladderco.co.nz.
So I'll put that in the description.
Excellent.
Thank you. Reach out. I met Leighton a few years ago. We hadn't talked since. Not because of Leighton's, but I was like, I want to learn about Facebook advertising, so I called you, and you had some really good insights. So
excellent. Good luck.
thank you, mate. Done.
Yeah.